Hello, and welcome to the Beyond Average Journeys of Growth and Increasing Value interview series. And I'm your host, Kristen Carlson. And today I'm joined by Dr. Rapaille, CEO and founder at Archetype Discoveries Worldwide, author, keynote speaker, and mentor in Palm Beach, Florida. So, Dr. Rapaille, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Awesome. So could you tell us a little bit about, I think you have multiple businesses going on, just about you and your businesses that you're managing today?
Yes, I'm trying to understand what nobody else understands. I'm trying to understand why people do what they do. And I don't believe what people say. So they have no idea why they're doing what they do, but they try to make sense out of something that is completely unconscious. So it's fascinating to see that around the world, everybody has a way of explaining. I call that an intellectual alibi. An intellectual alibi. They built alibis to explain why they do that, because they don't understand why they do that. So when you ask them, why do you do that? You see, why do you take a car that can go at a very expensive car when you usually go to work on a bicycle? See? So when you push the button to something that is irrational, then they kind of uncomfortable and so. So I'm trying to understand why people do what they do. You see, for example, and I work for a major corporation. One day, P&G asked me, why do people go shopping, right? And so if you listen to them, they say, oh, I need to buy some bread, or I need to buy some water, or I need to buy some milk. Okay, not true. They don't need it. Okay, so they go shopping, quote, to go out of their environment, to reconnect with life. No, and when they want to go to a big supermarket, want to see every life, and they want to be the diapers of the baby, they want to know the food, they want to know the drinks, they want to know they want to see all life in front of them. Is reconnecting with life, you see. And so that is a completely new approach to shopping. You see, you need to go beyond what people say. And there is always a dimension that is more powerful. So when you recreate an environment in a shopping area, for example, or in a supermarket, where people reconnect with life. Wow. You see, for example, one thing that people like is puppies.
Yes.
Puppies. I mean, if there's puppies, no problem. Everybody, oh, I mean, but this notion of reconnecting with life is very important. I did some work for hospital in Denver. And when I told them the way you could welcome people to come to the hospital is to show them life. And so I went to the waiting room, and what they had is television showing people getting killed all the time.
Mm.
That was awful. All these series on television say, no, pick a fish bowl, a big fish bowl in the middle of the room with a fish going around and beautiful and swimming and wow. So this is life, you see. So I'm trying to discover the trigger that make you feel connected with what you're trying to do here. And so my work is to go around the world and to study different cultures. Now, I just come back from India, and I spent almost a month over there trying to understand, the relationship to washing machine, vacuum cleaners, dryers, air conditioning for a Korean company there. So, and it's so fascinating to see that we have glasses that are cultural glasses. We see things through these glasses.
Mm.
But when you take off your glasses, you might see something, wow, well, I didn't see that before, you see. And so that's my expertise, to help people from one culture to understand other cultures.
So while you were in India, how do you Does the company help you connect with families where you can observe, or how do you get the opportunities to observe the things you're looking for?
You see, at the beginning of my life, I was working with autistic children, children that don't really speak the way we do.
Hmm.
And what I was doing is to try to understand how I could help these children to start speaking, like a regular person. But at the time, what I discovered is that when you learn a word, you learn more than a word. Because, for example, in Switzerland, I was working in Switzerland at the time, you have 4 official languages. 4. Every document is wrote in 4 languages: the French, Italian, German, and Roman. Right? And I was mainly working with children trying to speak French or German. And then I realized that when you learn, something like the sun, or the moon, actually you learn the words. They have genders, and the genders are different between French and German. So for the German, it's clear that the sun is a female. Wow, because women bring warmth and radiate and are beautiful and so on. And the moon is a man.
Hmm.
Very interesting, because the man doesn't shine by itself. It receives the light from the woman.
Interesting.
Oh,
Yeah, interesting.
that doesn't work in French. French is the opposite. The king's son, the Sun King, Louis XIV, was a man. And for them, the sun is a man, and the moon is a female that just wait to receive the light. So you see, that's so interesting, which means that you're not just learning a word, you're learning the culture that is behind. There are a lot of mental connection, you see. And so that's what we're not aware of. We think that, okay, we learn a word and that's it. No, we learn, for example, I did a lot of work on coffee. Coffee. Well, I was born in France. I'm an American today, but I was born in France. And for me, coffee was a café au lait that I
Hmm.
was in the morning, which is a big bowl like this full of coffee and milk. Huh? And that was big. Now, then one day I went to Italy and they gave me coffee in a small cup. And I was, look, where is the coffee? I couldn't find it. It was just, so then you realize that the whole culture, there is a notion of density in the espresso in Italy, and then there is a notion of quantity in France. And so again, I think each product, without being aware of it, you transmit an element of the culture. You see, and that's what is quite interesting here. So that's what I'm trying to understand, how each culture, transmit something that we're not even aware of, you see. And so working with autistic children at the time, I realized that there is a notion of imprint. The first time you learn about something, you create an imprint in your mind and mental connection that unconsciously you're going to keep using again and again the rest of your life. You see, it's very, very strong. And so I gave a speech at the university, and one of my students invited his father to come to my presentation about imprint and the moon and the sun. And I explained the things, and the father came to see me at the end of my speech and said, "Oh, I didn't understand everything that you said, but I have a client for you." And I say, "Oh, a little girl, a little boy that is autistic." Say, "No, no, Nestle." I say, "What?" "Yeah, Nestle." "What can I do for Nestle?" "I have no idea." "Well, if you can discover the imprint of coffee in Japan, we might understand why we cannot compete against tea in Japan."
Okay.
And that was my first job, and they made me an offer that I could not refuse. So I went to Japan and discovered the whole strategy that they need to be prepared to start making Japanese interested in coffee. And today, Japanese didn't drink any coffee at the time when I start, but now they drink a lot of coffee.
Okay. Awesome. So, what is your most interesting assignment that you've worked on?
Well, you see, the the most interesting assignment may be to work on teenage pregnancy. And that was for Johnson and Johnson. And, it's clear that we have a big problem in the US about teenage pregnancy. And, I wanted to try to find a solution and bring a contribution to that dimension there. And what I found at the time was that people say, oh, say no to sex, and then you're not going to get pregnant. Now, if you know teenagers, to say no to sex is like telling them don't breathe. I mean, they're never going to work, forget it, yeah. But what I discover is that, and okay, it might sound a little strange what I'm going to tell you, but teenage pregnancy had nothing to do with sex. Wow. Of course, they have to have sex, but this is not the motivation. And what I discovered, and I got a lot of help from Johnson and Johnson at the time, was that the more chances you have to die, the more chances you have to get pregnant. You see, that's the old brain, the reptilian brain, that is programmed to make sure that the species is going to reproduce and to keep alive. So I was doing some work in inner city, Washington and other places. And, where these young people, they live in a place where the people who drove by drive-by shooting and sometimes shoot through the windows and things. So, one young teenager told me, I don't know how long I'm going to be alive. I'm going to be killed soon. So before I die, I want to have a baby, not a child, a baby, because the baby is totally dependent on you, is a prolongation of you. A child is too complicated. You have to take care of them. You have to, but the baby is so. Then I realized that the connection that we have to study from one culture to another is what are the chances when you're a teenager girl to die? And what are the chances to get pregnant? And I found a total correlation between the two. In Holland, where you have no chance to get killed, you have the lowest rate of teenage pregnancy. Inner city Washington, where you have a higher chance to get killed, higher chance to get pregnant. So what was fascinating for me here is that, stop speaking about sex. This is not the point. Create an environment where they can feel comfortable and they have more chance to survive. And then you will reduce. And it's not just economical. It's not just economical because, one of the people that criticized me at the time say, oh, yeah, but you're just dealing with poor children. And I said, well, sorry, in the work we have done, we found a young woman, Harvard graduate, lawyer, living in Greenwich, Connecticut, right? And she got pregnant because the doctor told her that she has cancer and she was going to die. Wow. You see, so the connection suddenly was beyond, status and symbol and socioeconomic. It was, again, this incredible connection between death and giving birth.
And how did Johnson and Johnson use that research then? What did they do with what you found?
Well, you see, one of the things we did at the time, they wanted to sell condoms. Okay, so I could not go against this dimension of the corporation trying to. Okay, but what they did was to try to create an environment for teenagers where they could take care of an environment, a house, a place where they could decorate it. They could try to give them a continuum in their life. Create clubs where you belong to the club, and then there are different in your mind. You can see that every month there is a meeting, every 6 months there is this. You're giving them some future in the mental future. You see, and that was what I was trying to promote at the time.
Awesome. So, how are you building your company? Do you have others that work with you on your research? And
Yes. We just coming back from India. We have an affiliate in Madras, which is now Chennai, in India, but we have people working with us in Hong Kong, and we do a lot of work in China. We had people in Russia before the war, so now we're a little bit in suspense. We're waiting to know what's going to happen. We've done a lot of work in Brazil. We have an affiliate we had an affiliate in Rio, now in Sao Paulo. And of course, the US and Europe is permanent business. So, we have a little group of passionate people. I think this is, how do you recruit people because they're passionate about that? If they're
Right.
not, if they're just interested in making a little money, well, do whatever. But another thing that I like too is people that are lucky. You know, Napoleon say, "How do you recruit your generals?" I choose the lucky one. And I think, you can choose to be lucky. And that's what I think is fascinating, is that, if you choose to be happy. I mean, Voltaire, my good friend Voltaire used to say, "I choose to be happy because it's better for my health."
Right.
And he was right.
Exactly.
I believe that the mind is more powerful than we think.
Yes. And so you're finding people with that like-minded strategy to be a part of what you do and help you with your research.
Yeah, I think that, I'm very passionate about my work. I love it so much that, I don't care about, I don't work 9 to 5. I work all the time. Even my dreams are into the exploring things. It's just amazing. And
Right.
so I want people that share this passion, you see, and that's why we call that archetype discovery. Is discovery. When people ask to me, "What are you discover?" I say, "I don't know. I don't know yet, because you knew, it wouldn't be a discovery."
Right.
And the beauty of my work is the surprise. Surprise, you see. Okay, I was in India. Of course, I've been to India many times, and I had already preconceived ideas of what I was going to discover. But I'm trying to repress that, my preconceived ideas. I don't want to have any hypothesis. I don't know. No, otherwise, I'm not going to be surprised. No.
Right.
Then when I discover something, wow, wow, this is, and that's this moment that is the best reward for me.
And that's really what you're looking for in these projects that you take on, right? Is the
Absolutely.
impossible thing that's going to show up when
Yeah,
you're open,
yeah.
open your
It,
mind for it, right?
it could be little things, but it could be big things. I mean, again, for example, when we did we discovered a vacuum cleaner in Russia, in Russia, we discovered that for the Russian woman, if it's not wet, it's not clean. Oh, you see, so the vacuum cleaner, we had to add a piece that they can put some water in it. And so then they can finish the work with something that is wet. Okay. That's interesting, because for me, okay, wet and clean are not very related for me, kind of, you see. In India, what we discovered recently is that it's not clean that is important. It's purity. So when you are not pure, you are impure. And this is a pariah. This is not. So the purpose of washing your hand is not to clean the microbe or the germs. Is to go into this level of purity. And because they have the caste system, the higher caste
Yes.
has the rules that are so complex, because they want everything is to be pure. You see, the Brahman in India can be your cook. He can cook for you, but he cannot eat the food that he's cooking. So, all right, so you don't have to worry about eating everything that was prepared for you. But so this notion of rules, unconscious rules that nobody questions, are very, very interesting. I've done work for Lego, and and Lego, they say we have a problem with the American because they buy one box and that's it, and we want them to buy another box. So again, what was interesting is the notion of destruction. Destruction. You see, American, they buy a box, they build something, and then they enjoy destroying it. I was invited one day in Las Vegas by a company that said, "Come, we're going to destroy the whole building. You're going to see this is a beautiful destruction." And they are experts in destruction. You see, so that was very interesting because in some other cultures, for example, you build something, and they keep it. And so in some culture, the children will build something and put it on a shelf and then start building something else. That's why they buy several boxes.
Right.
So again, this is the insight about these differences from one culture to another, which I think so exciting.
Well, it is fascinating. And it's like, how do you determine, like, how do you go to India for a month? Or do you go and you stay until you have discovered what you were hoping to discover? How do you determine the time frame it's going to take for you to uncover your
Yeah.
findings?
So we have a process, the process, you see, and so we take groups of people and 20 people per group, 10 groups, which is around 200 people. And we take them through the three brains. So, if I try to understand, I don't know, vacuum cleaner in India, I will say, okay, I'm just arriving from another planet and I found this. Tell me what it is. Okay, I know already, but again, so it's just to activate the mental connection. I know what they're going to tell me. I don't learn anything new for that. That's the first hour of the session. Then the second hour, I use the latent structures. I don't know if you remember the two profiles that can design a vase in the middle. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's the same with words. When I did the code, I discovered the code for freedom in America. What I discovered is the latent structure of freedom is prohibition. And I'm an American today, so I can relate to that. You see, American, we love freedom. We love prohibition. Wow. Mayor Bloomberg, when he was mayor of New York, he said, you cannot drink Coke that is bigger than this. You cannot smoke in the park. You cannot do that. I mean, look at all what is political correctness. Is a complete example how much we love prohibition. And so prohibition of alcohol was like, what, 15, 16 years? So this is a reality. So you see, that's what I do during the second hour. I discover the latent structure of every concept that we use. Then the third hour, and that's going to be look very strange, I ask them to lie down on the floor and they listen to a relaxation tape. And I guide them back to their very first imprint of what I want to understand. You see? And so they sign a waiver before, we took a lot of precaution, but and what is so interesting is that they start going back to something that was imprinted at a very early age. What I wanted is to disconnect the cortex because they don't tell me what they know. They let things coming back to them. You see? So when we did the code for coffee, for Folger coffee, and we take people back to the first time they experienced coffee, they didn't drink coffee. When you're 2 years old, you don't drink coffee. So what did they imprint? The aroma.
Mhm.
Wow. And so what we discover is that the way to sell coffee in America is not to sell the taste, is to sell the aroma. And we organize all the strategy, the marketing strategy of Folger Coffee. And they became, coffee is a commodity. Everybody sells coffee. But Folger Coffee became the #1 in this category for more than 10 years, 15 years, because they were concentrating on the aroma. They designed the packaging, you see the aroma in your face. The communication was all about smell and aroma. So, that's how we do. So when we go to India, we do 10 sessions like this, bring people in a special place, and then they go back to the 3 hours. And then when they finish with going back to the first imprint, this is anonymous. They don't have to speak up. So there is no judgment. Nobody is going to judge you. And they write down in an anonymous way, they write down what they did remember and what did come back in their mind. And so then after that, we analyze the structure and we look at the pattern, the repetition of pattern from one story to another to another. So if we have 20 people per group and 10 groups, that's 200 stories. You see, and if there is a pattern, it will show up. It will come right away. Boom. This is just very powerful.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing the process. So in closing, what would you like your legacy to be?
What I would like? I didn't understand.
What would you like your legacy? What are you hoping to
My legacy
beyond yourself?
Yeah. I think that there is something powerful is to be passionate about what you do. And I have 2 boys, 2 children, and what I'm trying to share with them is this passion for something that is my life. You see, when people say, what do you do? I don't know how to answer that because I don't really work. It's not work. It's discovering, is a passion. And, I don't know, Marco Polo or it was not working. It was discovering things. So you see, so my legacy will be, if you're passionate about your work, then you don't work.
Agreed.
And there is a passion, a commitment, and I think my legacy will be that when I discover the real code, like for teenage pregnancy, I'm making a contribution, a modest little contribution, but at least I'm trying to solve a problem or to give a direction that might help to solve a problem.
Well, thank you. Your work is definitely needed, and all the things you talked about, so interesting. So thank you for joining me today and sharing all of your discoveries and kind of the process of how you get to that discovery, and leaving your legacy on the world, right? The impact is much bigger than just an area. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, as they say in India, namaste.
Awesome. And everyone watching, thank you. And we'll see you on the next episode.